The day the aliens came was just like any other Tuesday. Blue skies stretched over New York, London, Beijing, and every city in between. No one expected visitors from another world. No one was ready. Commander Jack Miller sat in the control room of Earth Defense Station 1. His coffee had gone cold. His eyes never left the main screen where 7 massive ships hung in Earth's orbit. They had appeared 3 hours ago without warning. No radar detection, no heat signatures. They simply weren't there, and then they were. "Any response to our messages?" Jack asked. His voice stayed calm even though his heart raced. Lieutenant Susan Carter shook her head. Her fingers moved quickly over her communication panel. "Nothing, sir. We've tried all frequencies and formats. They're receiving but not answering." Susan was new to the United Earth Defense Force. Before joining, she had studied music theory and sound patterns at Berkeley, an odd background for a military officer, but these days the UEDF took people with all kinds of skills. No one knew what might be useful when humanity finally met aliens. "Keep trying," Jack ordered. "Maybe they're still figuring out how to talk to us." The main door slid open. General Lisa Howard walked in, her face tight with worry. "The president is on the line with other world leaders. They want to know if we're under attack." "I don't know yet," Jack admitted. "They haven't made any—" A sharp beep cut him off. Susan's eyes widened as her screen filled with data. "Sir, we're getting something. I think it's a response." The room went quiet. Everyone watched as strange symbols flowed across the main screen. Computers worked to make sense of the alien message. "Can we translate it?" General Howard asked. "Working on it," Susan said. Her background in sound patterns helped her see structure in the alien communication. "It's complex, but there's definitely a pattern." After 10 tense minutes, the computer offered a rough translation. "Your world has resources we require. You will surrender them or be removed. You have 6 Earth hours to comply." Jack's blood went cold. "That's not very friendly." "What resources?" General Howard asked. "What do they want?" Before anyone could guess, a second message came through. This one included images of Earth's oceans. "Water," Susan said. "They want our water." General Howard's face hardened. "They can't have it, not without a fight." Jack nodded in agreement. "Send a message back. Tell them Earth's resources are not available for taking. Suggest we might be willing to discuss limited trade agreements." Susan sent the message. The response came faster this time. "No negotiation. Prepare for removal." A minute later, the first attack hit. A beam of intense blue light shot from the largest alien ship. It struck downtown Sydney, Australia. On screens across the control room, they watched a city of 5 million people turn to rubble in seconds. Alarms blared. Phones rang. People shouted. Jack's training took over. "Get me all. Defense platforms online. Scramble every fighter we have. Susan, keep trying to communicate." But Earth's defenses were like toys against the alien weapons. Missiles disappeared mid-flight. Fighter jets exploded before getting close. Defense platforms in orbit went dark, one by one. Within an hour, the aliens had destroyed Rio de Janeiro, Cairo, and Singapore. Susan worked frantically at her station, studying the alien communication patterns. Something about them seemed strange to her trained ear. Unlike human languages that used sound waves in a specific range, the alien transmissions covered an unusual spectrum. "Sir?" she called to Jack. "I think their communication system might tell us something about their biology." Jack looked up from the defense coordination. "What do you mean?" "The frequency ranges they use are far more sensitive than ours. It suggests their hearing or something like hearing is much more developed than human ears." Jack didn't see how this helped with cities burning, but he trusted Susan's instincts. "Keep analyzing, find me something we can use." The aliens hit Denver next. Susan watched in horror as her hometown vanished from the map. Her parents had lived there, her brother and his family too. Now they were gone, along with 2 million others. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't stop working. She turned, grief into determination, analyzing every bit of alien communication she could capture. By evening, the world's governments agreed to a unified response. There would be no surrender. Earth would fight back with everything it had. The United Earth Defense Force took full command of all military resources worldwide. General Howard gathered the command staff. "I won't sugarcoat this, we're outmatched. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, but humanity doesn't give up. We need ideas, people. Anything." "Ma'am," Susan spoke up, "I've been studying their communication patterns. Their auditory sensitivity might be a weakness. If their hearing is as advanced as I think, certain sounds might affect them more than they would affect us." "You think we can hurt them with noise?" someone asked with disbelief. "Not just any noise," Susan explained. "Specific frequencies and patterns. Their ships responded to our radio signals even though they ignored the messages. Something in our transmission spectrum got their attention. General Howard considered this. It's thin, but it's something. Lieutenant Carter, I'm giving you a team. Find me a way to use this against them." "Yes, ma'am." As Susan left to gather her team, the aliens struck again. This time they hit multiple targets: Chicago, Madrid, Seoul, and Mumbai all at once. Earth's defenses crumbled. Billions of people fled inland away from major cities. The aliens sent a new message. "Your resistance is noted. We will now demonstrate our resolve. Surrender all water resources or face extinction." With this message came a terrifying image. The alien fleet positioned to target Earth's largest freshwater lakes and river systems. Jack found Susan in her new lab. "Please tell me you have something." Susan looked up from her computer. Her eyes were red from crying and lack of sleep, but they held fierce determination. "Maybe. Their communication patterns show extreme sensitivity to repeating sound sequences. If we can find the right frequency combination, we might disrupt their systems." "How do we find it?" "I need to test different sounds against the alien transmission patterns we've captured, and I need to do it fast." Jack nodded. "You'll have whatever you need. But hurry. We just got word they're planning to hit the Great Lakes tomorrow." As Jack left, Susan turned back to her computer. On her screen, she had pulled up a list of sounds to test against the alien patterns. Music of all types, natural sounds, mechanical noises, and more. One file caught her eye. It was a children's song that had gone viral years ago and never really died. Baby Shark. Susan had included it as part of a collection of repetitive sound patterns. "Probably nothing," she muttered to herself as she loaded it into her analysis program. The computer beeped as it compared the song's pattern to the alien communications. Susan stared at the results in disbelief. She grabbed her phone and called Jack. "Sir, I need to see you right away. I found something you won't believe." War had just begun, but humanity had just found its first real hope. Susan Carter ran through the underground hallways of Bunker 7, clutching her tablet with the test results. The facility shook as alien weapons hit the mountains above. Dust fell from the ceiling. Emergency lights flashed red. "Commander Miller," she called as she burst into the command center. "Look at this." Jack looked up from the map table where he and General Howard were planning evacuation routes. His face showed 3 days without sleep. "What am I looking at, Lieutenant?" he asked as Susan handed him her tablet. "The song pattern matches their communication frequency almost perfectly," Susan explained. "See how the wavelengths align, and here," she pointed to a graph. "When I overlap them, there's interference." Dr. Paul Wright, the team's lead scientist, joined them at the table. "What Susan means is that this particular song might disrupt their communications. The repetitive pattern creates a kind of feedback loop in their frequency range." "General," Howard frowned. "Are you telling me a children's song could be a weapon against advanced aliens?" "Not just any children's song," Susan said. "This one has a specific pattern that seems to clash with their communication systems. And if their biology is as connected to these frequencies as I think, it might affect more than just their communications." Jack handed the tablet back. "What song is this anyway?" "Baby Shark," Susan said. A young technician at a nearby console laughed, then covered his mouth when everyone looked at him. "Sorry," he said. "It's just, my kid plays that song constantly. Drives me crazy." How exactly do you propose we use this? General Howard asked. Before Susan could answer, alarms blared again. A voice came over the speakers. Enemy craft approaching. All personnel prepare for possible evacuation. Jack moved to the main screen. Show me. The screen displayed a small alien ship circling the mountain range, getting closer to their hidden bunker. They must have tracked our communications, Dr. Wright said. We need to evacuate now. No, Susan said suddenly. This is our chance. To test my theory. She turned to the young technician. Can you broadcast audio through our external speakers? The technician nodded. Yes, but do it, General Howard ordered. Broadcast Lieutenant Carter's file at maximum volume. Everyone moved quickly. The technician connected Susan's tablet to the facility's communication system. Outside, powerful speakers normally used for emergency warnings waited for the signal. Ready, the technician said. Jack looked at Susan. If this doesn't work, we'll have given away our exact position. Susan nodded. Her hands shook slightly. I know. Do it, Jack ordered. The technician pressed the button. Outside, the cheerful opening notes of Baby Shark blasted from the mountainside at incredible volume. On the screen, they watched the alien ship continue its approach for a few seconds. Then suddenly, it veered sharply to the left. It tilted, wildly in the air like a drunk driver losing control. It's working, Susan shouted. The alien craft spun in circles, dipping and rising erratically. Then it crashed into a nearby mountainside in a ball of blue flame. The room went silent. Then everyone started talking at once. I can't believe that worked, Jack said, staring at the screen. General Howard was already thinking ahead. We need to examine that wreckage, and we need to develop this into a real weapon system. 3 hours later, Susan stood with Dr. Wright and a team of engineers at the crash site. They wore protective suits in case of alien biological hazards. The ship had broken into 3 main pieces. Inside the largest section, they found 2 dead aliens. The creatures were nothing like humans had imagined. They had 6 limbs and skin that shimmered with a metallic blue tone. Their heads were elongated with what looked like extra ear structures along both sides. Look at these, Dr. Wright said, pointing carefully at the ear-like organs. I count 8 auditory input structures. Their hearing must be incredibly complex, Susan nodded. That's why the song affected them so strongly. The repetitive pattern, the specific frequencies, it must have been like an intense pain or disorientation. One of the engineers called them over to a different part of the wreckage. You need to see this, he said, pointing to what appeared to be the ship's control panel. Susan looked closely. The alien technology was strange, but one thing stood out. There were no buttons, no switches, no keyboards, just smooth surfaces with wave patterns etched into them. They control their ships with sound, she whispered. That's why our broadcast affected their navigation so dramatically. Back at the bunker, Susan and her team worked around the clock. They tested different versions of Baby Shark at various war frequencies. They studied the alien bodies and ship parts. They developed theories about draconid biology and technology. Frank Martinez, an audio engineer who had worked on concert systems before the invasion, joined Susan's team. Together they designed a portable broadcast system that could project the song at the exact frequency needed to disrupt the aliens. We need to test this on a larger scale, Susan told Jack and General Howard during a briefing 1 week after the crash. The small scout ship is one thing, but will it work on their larger vessels? General Howard nodded. We're setting up a test. The aliens have established a base near the ruins of Denver. They're extracting water from what's left of the reservoir. We'll attack with conventional forces as a distraction, then deploy your sonic weapon. We're calling it Project Earworm, Frank added. 2 days later, Susan sat in a modified truck 5 miles from the alien base. Around her, the last remaining tanks and infantry units of the Rocky Mountain Division prepared for battle. The plan was simple but dangerous. The military forces would engage the aliens head-on, drawing their attention. Then, Susan's team would activate their broadcast system at full power. All units in position, came Jack's voice over the radio. He was coordinating from a command helicopter. Begin Operation Earworm on my mark. Susan checked the equipment one last time. Frank gave her a thumbs up from the control panel. Dr. Kelly Robinson, a xenobiologist who had joined their team, monitored readings that might tell them how the aliens were responding. 3, 2, 1, Mark, Jack ordered. The attack began. Tanks fired at the alien base. Jets screamed overhead. The aliens responded with their blue energy weapons, cutting through Earth's forces like they were made of paper. Casualties at 30% already, Jack reported grimly. Susan, we need your
weapon now.
Activating broadcast, Susan said. Frank turned several dials and pressed a large red button. Outside, 4 massive speakers mounted on their truck came to life. The familiar tune of Baby Shark blasted across the battlefield at a volume that made the ground vibrate. For a moment, nothing happened. Susan's heart sank. Then Kelly shouted, "Look!" On their monitors, they could see the alien weapons faltering. The blue beams flickered and went out. Alien troops stumbled and fell. Their ships listed to one side, some crashing into each other. "It's working!" Frank yelled over the noise. Susan grabbed the radio. "Jack, tell our forces to advance. The aliens are vulnerable." For the first time since the invasion began, human forces pushed the aliens back. Tanks rolled forward unchallenged. Infantry moved in to secure the alien water extraction equipment. By sunset, the alien base was in human hands. Hundreds of Draconid soldiers had been captured, unable to fight when exposed to the sonic attack. Susan walked through the captured base with Jack and General Howard, marveling at the alien technology. "This is just the beginning," General Howard said. "We need to expand this to all our remaining forces." Susan nodded. "We're already working on it. We can install the broadcast systems on vehicles, aircraft, even handheld devices for infantry." Jack smiled for the first time in weeks. Who would have thought? All this advanced alien technology and they get defeated by a children's song about sharks. "They never saw it coming," Susan said. "And that's our advantage. We need to strike, while they're still confused." As they left the captured base, Susan looked up at the night sky where the main alien fleet still orbited Earth. The real fight was just beginning. But now, humanity had hope. News of humanity's first victory spread quickly. People hiding in mountains, forests, and underground bunkers celebrated. For the first time since the invasion began, there was hope. Susan Carter stood in the main workshop of what used to be a car factory in Detroit. Now it produced something very different. Hundreds of workers assembled speakers and sound systems designed to broadcast Baby Shark at the specific frequencies that hurt the Draconids. "How many can we make per day?" Susan asked Nicole Garcia, the engineer in charge of production. "About 500 of the vehicle-mounted systems and 2,000 of the portable units," Nicole replied. "But we're running low on certain parts. We need more microprocessors and amplifiers." Susan nodded. "I'll talk to command about organizing salvage teams. There must be millions of unused electronics in abandoned cities." Frank Martinez joined them, carrying a modified backpack with small speakers attached. "Just finished testing the infantry unit. Works perfectly at a range of about 50 meters. "Good," Susan said. "What about the larger systems for the naval vessels?" "Those are trickier," Frank admitted. "Saltwater affects sound propagation. We're still working on adjustments." An alarm sounded throughout the factory. Red lights flashed. Everyone looked up. "Attention all personnel," a voice announced. "Incoming Draconid ships detected. Take shelter immediately." Workers rushed to predetermined safety areas. Susan, Frank, and Nicole ran to the factory's command center. Inside, military officers monitored radar screens showing 3 alien ships approaching. "They found us," Frank said. Susan studied the radar. "No, I don't think they're targeting us specifically. They're doing a sweep of the whole region. Detroit is just in their path." Captain Joe Lewis, the officer in charge of factory security, turned to them. "We have 4 tanks with your sound systems and about 50 infantry units. Should we engage or evacuate?" Susan hesitated. So far, they had only tested their weapon on a single alien base. This would be different, a direct confrontation with ships in the air. "We engage," she decided. "This is a chance to test the effectiveness of our weapons against their aircraft." Captain Lewis nodded and began giving orders through his radio. Susan and her team went to a special truck equipped with monitoring gear. From there, they could track the effects of their sonic attack and make adjustments if needed. The tanks took position around the factory. Soldiers with backpack speakers spread out in teams. Everyone waited as the alien ships grew closer. "They're in range," Captain Lewis announced. "Activating sound weapons on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark." All around the factory, Baby Shark began playing at full volume. The childish tune, modified to hit the exact frequencies that disrupted Draconid biology, blasted into the sky. On their monitors, Susan's team watched the alien ships closely. At first, nothing happened. The ships continued their approach. "Increase the volume," Susan ordered, "and boost the frequency range we identified from the captured ship." Frank adjusted the controls. The sound became even louder, with tones that human ears could barely detect. The effect was immediate. The lead alien ship wobbled in the air. It veered to the right, then left like a car with a drunk driver. The other two ships also began to move erratically. "It's working," Nicole shouted, but the aliens weren't retreating. Despite their difficulty maintaining control, the ships continued forward. One of them fired its blue energy weapon, but the beam went wide, hitting a building 3 blocks away. "They're fighting through the disorientation," Susan realized. "We need to make it stronger." Frank looked at her. "We're already at maximum power for these units," Susan thought quickly. "What if we change the song? Layer it with another repetitive pattern." She grabbed a tablet and pulled up a library of children's songs. She selected Wheels on the Bus and quickly adjusted its frequency pattern to complement Baby Shark. "Add this to the broadcast," she told Frank. He connected her tablet to the main system and pressed a button. Now 2 songs played together, creating a complex layered pattern of sound that was even more disruptive to the alien sensory systems. The effect was dramatic. The lead ship spun completely around. Another suddenly dropped several hundred feet before stabilizing. The third tried to turn away but crashed into an abandoned office building. "Direct hit," Captain Lewis exclaimed. "Good work, people." The 2 remaining ships retreated, flying away from Detroit as fast as they could. Everyone cheered. Susan felt a moment of triumph, but she knew this was just the beginning. They had driven away 3 ships, but the main alien fleet still orbited Earth. They needed to do more. Back at command headquarters in the underground bunker, Susan presented her findings to General Howard and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. "The combined song approach works even better than just Baby Shark alone," she explained. "We've created what we're calling the preschool protocol, a set of children's songs modified to specifically target Draconid auditory weaknesses." General Howard nodded. "Good work, Lieutenant, but we need to take this further. Driving away a few ships isn't enough. We need to target their main fleet." "I've been thinking about that," Susan said. "Their mothership controls the entire invasion force. If we can disrupt it, we might be able to cripple their whole operation." "How do you propose we do that?" asked Admiral Steve Rogers. "Our aircraft can't reach orbit anymore. All our space capabilities were destroyed in the first wave." Susan smiled. "Not all of them. There's still the International Space Station. It's small, but it has communication equipment we could modify to broadcast our sonic weapon." The room went quiet as everyone considered this. "There's just one problem," Susan continued. "Someone would need to get up there to install the equipment, and with the aliens controlling orbit, that would be nearly impossible." Jack Miller, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Not impossible, just very, very dangerous." General Howard looked at him. "What are you suggesting, Commander?" "We have 1 space shuttle left in storage at Vandenberg," Jack said. "It's old, but it might still fly. If we could create a distraction big enough to keep the aliens busy elsewhere, a small team might be able to reach the ISS." Admiral Rogers shook his head. "That's a suicide mission." "Maybe," Jack admitted. "But what choice do we have? Either we take the fight to them, or we keep playing defense until they drain every drop of water from our planet." General Howard was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. Start putting together a plan, Commander. Lieutenant Carter, you'll need to create a version of your sonic weapon that can be installed on the ISS. Yes, ma'am, Susan said. As the meeting ended, Jack pulled Susan aside in the hallway. This will be dangerous, he said quietly. The team going up will need someone who understands the sonic weapon. Someone who can make adjustments if needed. Susan understood what he was asking. You want me to go with you? Jack nodded. I wouldn't ask if there was any other way. Susan thought about her parents and brother, killed when Denver was destroyed. She thought about all the cities reduced to rubble, all the people hiding and starving and afraid. I'll go, she said. If there's even a small chance this will work, I have to try. Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. We leave in 3 days. Get your team working on the space version of the weapon. As Jack walked away, Susan took a deep breath. She was going to space to face the aliens directly. The thought terrified her, but there was no turning back now. Earth's future depended on it. The old space shuttle looked small against the vast blue sky. Susan Carter watched as ground crews prepared it for launch. The name Hope had been painted on its side. After 3 days of non-stop work, they were ready. Nervous? Jack Miller asked, joining her on the observation platform. Susan nodded. I've never been to space before. Never thought I would. Me neither, Jack admitted. I was an Air Force pilot before joining the Defense Force. Closest I got to space was flying at 50,000 feet. Dr. Kelly Robinson approached them, carrying 3 small devices that looked like modified headphones. These are personal sonic shields, she explained. They'll protect you from the effects of our own weapon. Susan took one and examined it. How do they work? They create a counter frequency that cancels out the harmful effects of the preschool protocol, Kelly said. Without these, you'd be as disoriented as the aliens when we activate the weapon. Jack checked his watch. Time to suit up. The diversion starts in 2 hours. The diversion was massive. All across North America, every remaining tank, aircraft, and infantry unit equipped with sonic weapons would attack alien positions simultaneously. The hope was to draw attention away from the shuttle launch. Susan, Jack, and 4 other crew members put on their spacesuits and boarded the shuttle. As the countdown began, Susan held tight to the device in her hand. It was a small black box with a simple interface, the control unit for the orbital sonic weapon. Everything depended on getting this to the space station and installing it correctly. T-10, 9, 8. The launch controller's voice came through their headsets. Susan closed her eyes and thought of her family. She was doing this for them, and for everyone else who had lost loved ones to the invasion. 2, 1, ignition. The roar was deafening. Susan felt herself pushed back into her seat as the shuttle lifted off. The force was incredible, like a giant hand pressing against her chest. Outside the windows, the blue sky grew darker and darker until it turned completely black. We've reached orbit, the pilot announced. No sign of alien interceptors yet. Jack checked the communication system. Ground control reports the diversion is working. Alien forces are engaged across multiple fronts. Susan released her harness and floated in the cabin. The weightlessness felt strange but not unpleasant. Through the window, she could see Earth, below, beautiful and blue with no sign of the destruction that had ravaged its surface. International Space Station is 20 kilometers ahead, the pilot reported. Beginning approach. The space station came into view, a series of connected modules glinting in the sunlight. It had been abandoned early in the invasion when the aliens destroyed most Earth satellites. But the station itself had been spared, perhaps because the aliens didn't consider it a threat. Look, the co-pilot suddenly shouted. Above us. Everyone turned to see a Draconid ship approaching from higher orbit. It was smaller than their main battleships, but still much larger than the shuttle. They spotted us, Jack said grimly. Pilot, can you dock with the station before they reach us? I'll try, the pilot said, hands moving quickly over the controls. The shuttle accelerated toward the station. Susan grabbed a radio. We need to buy time. Connect me to ground control. When the connection was made, Susan quickly explained the situation. We need all ground forces to increase sonic attack intensity, draw more alien ships away from orbit. The response came back immediately. Understood. Increasing attack intensity now. The shuttle reached the docking port just as the alien ship came within firing range. There was a loud clang as the shuttle connected with the station, followed by a hiss of air as the pressure equalized. We're docked, the pilot announced, but that ship will be on us in minutes. Jack turned to Susan. We need to move fast. You and I will install the device. The rest of you prepare for emergency departure. If that ship attacks, you need to be ready to undock immediately. Susan and Jack pushed through the airlock into the International Space Station. It was cold and dark, powered down to minimal life support since its abandonment. Their flashlights cut through the darkness as they floated through the modules. The main communication array is in the Columbus module, Jack said. This way. They passed through several compartments, pushing themselves along in the zero gravity. Susan clutched the black box tightly. Behind them, they could hear the rest of the crew talking urgently over the radio about the approaching alien ship. They reached the Columbus module. Jack pointed to a panel of equipment. There. That's the main communication system. Susan opened her toolkit and began connecting the black box to the station's systems. Her hands worked quickly despite the bulky gloves of her spacesuit. Years of tinkering with sound equipment had made her fingers nimble. How much longer? Jack asked, watching the alien ship through a window. It was very close now, its blue hull gleaming in the sunlight. Almost done, Susan replied. She connected the last wire and powered up the device. The small screen lit up, showing the preschool protocol ready for activation. It's working. Just then, a blue beam shot from the alien ship, narrowly missing the docked shuttle. They're firing on us. The pilot's voice came over the radio. We need to leave now. Jack looked at Susan. The device is installed. We need to go. Susan hesitated. The activation sequence is complex. If I don't start it now, ground control might not be able to activate it remotely. Another blue beam flashed past, closer this time. We have 10 seconds before we undock, the pilot warned. Jack grabbed Susan's arm. We have to go now. Susan made her decision in an instant. You go. I'll activate the device and use one of the escape pods. Susan, there's no time to argue. She pushed Jack toward the module exit. Go. Jack hesitated, then nodded sharply. The escape pods are in the Zvezda module. Don't wait too long. He pushed off and floated rapidly back toward the shuttle. Susan turned to the black box and began the activation sequence. Her fingers flew over the small keyboard, entering codes and adjustments. Outside, the alien ship fired again. This time the beam hit the shuttle's tail section. Alarms blared through Susan's radio. We're undocking now, the pilot announced. Engine damage reported. Susan watched through the window as the shuttle pulled away from the station, moving erratically. The alien ship followed, firing repeatedly. She held her breath, watching as the shuttle disappeared from view, the alien ship in pursuit. Alone on the space station, Susan finished the activation sequence. The black box hummed to life. On its screen, a countdown appeared. 60 seconds until broadcast. Susan pushed away from the communication panel and began moving quickly toward the Zvezda module. The escape pods were small, but should be enough to get her back to Earth, if she could launch before the alien ship returned. She reached the module and found the escape pod access. As she prepared to enter the pod, a strange vibration ran through the station. Susan recognized it immediately. The sonic weapon was activating. Even with her protective headphones, she could feel the effect of the preschool protocol starting to broadcast from the station's powerful communication array. The childish melodies of Baby Shark, Wheels on the Bus, and other songs, modified to target draconid biology, were now being transmitted at a power level that would reach the entire alien fleet in orbit. Susan climbed into the escape pod and sealed the hatch. Through the small window, she could see Earth below and in the distance the alien mothership. As she watched, smaller ships around it began to move erratically. It was working. Susan strapped herself in and reached for the launch controls. As her hand touched the panel, a blinding blue light filled the window. The alien ship had returned. The blue light faded. Susan blinked, expecting to see the space station torn apart by the alien weapon. Instead, she saw something incredible. The alien ship was spinning wildly, unable to control itself. The sonic broadcast was working. Without wasting another second, Susan hit the launch button. The escape pod detached from the station with a loud clang. Small thrusters fired automatically, pushing the pod away from the station and the disoriented alien ship. As the pod began its descent toward Earth, Susan looked out the window. All across Earth's orbit, alien ships moved erratically. Some crashed into each other. Others fired weapons at nothing. The massive mothership drifted sideways, its powerful engines firing in random patterns. "It's working," Susan whispered. "It's really working." The radio in her pod crackled to life. "Susan, Susan, do you copy?" It was Jack's voice. "Jack, you made it." Susan felt tears of relief in her eyes. "Barely," Jack replied. "We took some damage but managed to lose the alien ship when it started going haywire. Are you in an escape pod?" "Yes, beginning re-entry now." Susan felt the pod shudder as it hit Earth's atmosphere. Outside the window, orange flames appeared, as air friction heated the pod's heat shield. "The weapon is active. The entire alien fleet is affected." "We can see it from here," Jack said. "Ground control reports all alien ships in orbit are disabled." "You did it, Susan." The radio crackled with cheers from mission control. Susan smiled, but she knew the battle wasn't over yet. The pod continued its fiery descent toward Earth. The flames outside grew more intense. The small cabin became hot. "Prepare for landing," an automated voice announced. "Impact in 2 minutes." Susan tightened her harness and braced herself. The pod had a simple parachute system, but landings were never gentle. Below, she could see the blue of the Pacific Ocean growing larger. The parachutes deployed with a jerk that pushed Susan hard against her harness. The pod's descent slowed dramatically. 3 minutes later, she hit the water with a splash that rattled her teeth. The pod bobbed in the waves, designed to float until rescue arrived. Susan unstrapped herself and pressed the emergency beacon. Then she sat back and waited, watching the sky through the small window. Far above, tiny flashes of light marked the destruction of alien ships as they collided with each other or burned up, entering the atmosphere. 2 hours later, a U.S. Navy ship appeared on the horizon. A helicopter flew from its deck and hovered over Susan's pod. Rescue swimmers dropped into the water and attached cables to the pod. Soon, she was being lifted into the air and carried to the ship. On the deck of the USS Independence, sailors cheered as Susan emerged from the pod. An officer stepped forward and saluted her. "Lieutenant Carter," he said, "Admiral Peterson sends his congratulations. Your mission was a complete success." Susan returned the salute, then swayed slightly on her feet. The ordeal had left her exhausted. "Commander Miller?" she asked. "Did his shuttle make it back?" "Yes, ma'am. They landed in California about an hour ago. Everyone survived." Susan nodded, relieved. "And the aliens? The mothership?" "Still in orbit, but completely disabled," the officer said with a smile. "We're preparing a mission to board it now." 3 days later, Susan stood in the Pentagon's war room with Jack, General Howard, and Admiral Peterson. On the main screen, they watched live footage from inside the alien mothership. A team of soldiers and scientists had boarded the vessel, finding the alien crew incapacitated by the continuing sonic broadcast. "Turn down the volume on the feed," General Howard ordered as the familiar notes of Baby Shark came through the speakers. Someone quickly adjusted the sound. "The ship is enormous," reported the mission commander from inside the alien vessel. "We estimate there are over 10,000 Draconids aboard, all affected by the sonic weapon. Their technology is far beyond ours, but with the crew incapacitated, we've been able to access their control systems." "What have you learned?" Admiral Peterson asked. "They come from a planet about 30 light years away. Their world is running out of water, so they've been searching for new sources." Earth was a perfect target, abundant water, and what they thought was primitive defense technology. Susan leaned forward. Have you found anything about their communication systems? Anything that explains why our sonic weapon was so effective? The mission commander nodded. Their entire civilization is based on sound. They evolved on a planet with very specific sound patterns. Their technology, their biology, even their social structure, all connected to specific frequencies and patterns. Our chaotic human music, especially repetitive children's songs, creates something like a neurological overload in their brains. Jack laughed softly. So the most annoying songs on Earth became our greatest weapon. General Howard turned to Susan. What's our next step, Lieutenant? Can we use this to end the war completely? Susan thought for a moment. If we can access their communication systems, we might be able to broadcast the preschool protocol to their entire fleet worldwide. Force a complete surrender. Admiral Peterson nodded. Make it happen. 2 weeks later, Susan stood on a platform overlooking what remained of New York City. Behind her, General Howard prepared to address a crowd of survivors and soldiers. Above, the alien mothership hung in the sky, now under human control. The aliens have agreed to our terms, General Howard announced. All Draconid forces will leave Earth immediately. They will provide reparations in the form of technology and resources to help us rebuild, and they have agreed never to return to our solar system. The crowd cheered. Susan smiled, thinking of how far they had come since that first terrifying day when the alien ships appeared in orbit. Jack joined her on the platform. How does it feel to be the savior of humanity? Susan shook her head. I just noticed a pattern. Anyone could have done it, but they didn't. You did. Jack looked up at the alien ship. What do you think they'll tell other species about us? Susan laughed. Probably to avoid the third planet in the Sol system. The inhabitants weaponized children's songs. As if on cue, a small child in the crowd began singing Baby Shark. Others joined in, the simple tune spreading through the gathering, like a wave. Susan watched as some of the captured aliens visibly flinched, even with their protective gear. In the weeks that followed, Earth began to rebuild. With alien technology, cities rose from ruins faster than anyone thought possible. Water purification systems were installed around the world, ensuring clean drinking water for all. New defense systems were created, combining human ingenuity with Draconid technology. Susan Carter received the highest military honors from nations around the world, but she refused most public appearances, preferring to continue her work studying alien communication systems. There were other species out there among the stars, and humanity needed to be ready. 1 year after the invasion, Susan sat in her new laboratory at the Global Defense Institute. On her desk was a small music box. When opened, it played Baby Shark, a gift from Jack, now Admiral Miller, with a note that read, "Never forget how humanity's most annoying song saved the world." Susan smiled and closed the box. Outside her window, the new skyline of Denver rose against the Rocky Mountains. Her hometown, rebuilt and thriving. In the clear blue sky above, Earth's new defense fleet patrolled, each ship equipped with sonic weapons alongside more conventional armaments. The Draconids had taught humanity an important lesson. In the vastness of space, with all its unknown dangers, sometimes the most powerful weapons came from the most unexpected places. Children's songs, nursery rhymes, the simple, repetitive tunes that drove parents crazy but delighted young minds. As Susan turned back to her work, she wondered what other species might be out there, and what uniquely human things might protect Earth from them. But for now, humanity was safe, and somewhere in deep space, the Draconids were undoubtedly warning others. Beware of Earth. They have a weapon called Baby Shark.